Congratulations, Karley. That was excellent. Great presentation. Let's start this. Okay. First question I have for you is, you once shared with me that you went on an athletic trip to the mainland and you were the only person on your team that didn't engage in vaping. Would you say that although the statistics that you gave were horrible, do you feel that they are underestimated among teen use?
Yeah, I do feel like they're underestimated because most teens will not admit to actually using these devices because they don't want to get in trouble. So I think a lot of teens will say that they're not using e-cigarettes. So I said 4.7 million teens use electronic cigarettes. I think it's at least 6 to 7. Because just with the ratio of my team, I was the only one of 10 players, so that's a 1 to 9 ratio of people who don't smoke to people that smoke. So if you count that to all the teens in America, 4.7 is a small number.
Very good. Also, you know, when tobacco cigarettes first came out, it wasn't, you know, till 10 or 15, 20 years later where it was widely known and accepted that they were very dangerous, you know, caused all kinds of health problems, including death. Do you think that in 10 to 15 years, we're going to be looking back on this day and having the same conversation? You know, vaping was a really dumb idea, and why was it allowed to be commercialized and promoted?
Yeah, I do think we are going to look back 10 years from now and see this as a widespread problem that we should have stopped early on. One thing I know that is happening to people's lungs when they're vaping is water is entering into their lungs, which means that water in your lungs leads to pneumonia. And because these devices are so new, enough water hasn't entered their lungs yet. But once enough water does, I'm not going to say I promise you, but I have a strong feeling that a lot more people will start to have pneumonia from these devices. So I do think from 10 years from now, we will be saying we should have never done this.
Okay, and my last question is, you spoke of your friend who made a bad decision and then continued to make bad decisions, and you had, in a sense, outed her to her parents, and you felt that this was not the right decision, looking back. You were looking out for her health and her safety. Is there ever a place to withhold the truth when health and safety are being jeopardized?
Yeah, so in my experience, the one time I did out my friend's actions, it did kind of backfire. But it all just depends on what family you come from. I didn't know at the time that her parents would do that, but if I knew that her parents would have done that, I probably would have withheld the truth from them, because the one thing that teens need more than anything is love. And I think it's really important, no matter who it comes from, that we show our teenagers love, because that's going to be the thing that's either going to help them or hurt them later in life. So it really just depends family to family. And that's why I said there's no perfect way to solve the solution, because I cannot tell you one way to help this problem. There are so many different ways to combat this problem, and as one person looking at this, I cannot do all of it. That's just me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karley. That was a great topic and very educational, very important, and it definitely is representative of your character, that you care about what is right, and thank you for sharing that with all of us. Great job. Very proud of you. If your athletic team were in the room right now and they had heard your speech and they could respond freely in defense of what they do, what would their argument be for vaping?
They don't have a good argument for vaping. I'm just going to say it, they do not. I don't even know what their argument is for vaping, because it's centered on popularity. A lot of teens will start vaping because their friends do it and they want to feel part of the group. And that's this might not be the culture at Trinity, but that is the culture almost everywhere else. Teens are doing this, and they're being told that this is the things you have to do. Yeah, so my voice on the team wasn't strong because everyone else was telling them that this is what you need to do. And it's 1 to 8, basically. So I could try my best to help these girls, but in the end, I will probably lose because the rest of society tells them that it's the right thing.
Do you know, what would you think the percentage is, or around how many people who vape will accidentally also take a narcotic in what they're vaping if they're sharing with someone else?
I do not know the exact statistic on that, but I did look up the statistic on if parents were to smoke and vape, how likely would it be for teens to, or their children? And it's about a 60% chance that your child will start to vape. So I don't know the exact statistic on that.
What about, do you, in the people that you know, acquaintances that you know that vape, have any of them had that situation where they thought they were vaping nicotine and it turned out it was a narcotic?
Yes. Right, this last trip in February. I promise you that she knew she wasn't using nicotine. It was something else, and she still chose to use it. So, yeah.
And what was the third thing you said that they can put in these electronic cigarettes?
So it's a synthetic drug called flocka, and it's man-made, and it's more harmful than meth, they say, and it's almost like bath salts. So if any of you know what bath salts is, it's made with the same process of making bath salts.
And did you find the pledge you took in elementary school helpful?
So I did not find that course helpful. The one thing that I could say they could do to improve on that course is teaching kids how to speak up for the wrongdoing that their peers are doing. They tell us that to say no to peer pressure. Many of my friends haven't. And even when I'm put in those situations, up until now, I'm still scared to address that problem with my friends. So even though they didn't teach us that, I think that's something they need to heavily teach in those courses, because we can teach kids about vaping and smoking. We can teach them how to say no, but you need to teach them also how to help others when others have fallen and started vaping and smoking too.
Thank you.
I have a question. You mentioned things to help combat the problem. Could you suggest, after doing your research, what you feel should be put in place, either training kids or legal ramifications?
So I think first off, this problem has to be combated at home. Having that open relationship with your kids to talk about these things is super important, because they can look to outside things, but you don't know what exactly those outside people are going to be telling them. So if you talk about this at home and you have an open relationship with your parents about this, I'll just tell you, I had an open relationship, and all my friends who don't smoke or vape had an open relationship with their parents to talk about this. So I definitely think having your parents there to help you, super important. Also, I think addressing this at school needs to happen, because a lot of the pressure from society is coming from your peers. So even if someone in your class doesn't have that open relationship with their parents, they can still hear it from someone else. Because the only way we're going to actually fix this problem is if teens are educated about this and they know what they're doing to their bodies. Yeah.
How do you feel legislature or the law should be involved?
So the law is already there, saying that we cannot buy smoking products or any kind of alcohol or anything until 21. It doesn't really work. But, because we all have people that are older than us that can buy these things. So the one thing that needs to happen is they cannot allow, I don't think they should allow people to buy multiple devices, because that's where it gets into trouble. When you buy multiple devices, that's more for you to share. If you only have one, will you really share that with someone else? So I think limiting the amount of devices you should have would help. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I have a question. So obviously the media isn't educating us on this. The federal government's not educating us on this. And I've been educated this evening, so thank you very much. Is Trinity currently educating parents or students or both? And are you aware of any other schools or educational institutions that are educating?
So Trinity at this point is not educating teens on this. I've heard that they are making efforts to incorporate this into their curriculum, so teachers are encouraged to talk about these things now. Sorry, what was the rest of your question?
Specifically Trinity, but any other educational institutions that,
Yes.
school systems or anything that you're aware of?
So most public schools will talk about this a little bit, and they'll have like flyers up on their gym walls saying like, don't smoke e-cigarettes. When I went to public school in elementary, in 5th grade, we were not forced, we were encouraged to take a program called DARE, and DARE is still here today, but a lot of schools aren't inviting DARE into their school anymore because it costs money. The problem is all these things cost money, but to educate your kid, it might be worth the cost.
Okay. So are you encouraging the school here to educate parents also?
Yeah, I think parents need to know about what's going on. And even if that's an hour, one night, telling them this is what's going on, or even the parents sitting in this room, you guys are now educating about this. So what you guys can do is spread the word to other parents. You guys all have friends, and that's one way that this message can be sent to parents. We don't have to necessarily join in one room and all listen to this message, but just by word of mouth and talking about this with your fellow friends and even teens, if you talk to people, that's how we're going to start to combat this problem, is if we're all educated.
Thank you.
There's a couple questions from the audience. Have you, in your research, come across anything about secondhand vape? We know that secondhand smoke is terrible. What about the effects of secondhand vaping?
I did not find anything on secondhand vaping. Part of this might be due to because of how young these devices are. We don't see substantial cases of people dying because of vaping use, but these devices were only created in 2003. That means it's only been, people can only be frequent users for about 15 years. And even then, no one at this point has been a lifelong vapor. So when that person who is a lifelong vapor does die of vaping, then we might be able to clearly see if there's secondhand vape from the household or family.
Another question from the audience is has to do with companies selling the products and also youngsters breaking the law. So has there been prosecution for illegal usage bought to the company or to a user?
Yeah, so I heard there's a lot of things happening legally about teens getting vaping devices. So the company Juul specifically put out a message saying that they are not marketing to adults and that they've increased the security on their websites to try and combat this issue. The increased security is just clicking a button that says I am over the age of 18 or I am under the age of 18. I can tell you I've been on that site many times researching this. They have not done substantial leaps and bounds to try and stop teens from getting this product.
Judges, any other questions?
Looking at it from like a standpoint of hope, where can we find hope in situations like this?
So I hope that all of you take my message. I hope that all of you spread my message, because I am one voice, but you guys are a crowd of voices that can spread my message with everyone you know. So I hope that you guys will do so in the future. And I hope this will lead to a decay of youth, especially youth, vaping.
Another question from the audience, which I think is awesome. Why do you think you have the personal strength to not give in when so many of the people you surround yourself with, where do you get your personal strength?
So I also come to an amazing school that has taught me to stand up to societal pressures. I do have a life outside of Trinity that promotes this, but I always get to come back to my safe little home with my 13 students in my class, with my teacher who loves me. That's what really gave me the confidence to give this message, because if it were not for this message, or for this thesis specifically, I would not have spoken up about this thing. So thank you, Trinity.
Any other questions? No? Thanks.